So you are the only non-Indian in the Indian government startup council. We are based out of Silicon Valley.
जी.
Can you give us a sense of where does India startup status is? Where do we stand in the global community of startups?
You know, this has been the most uh, pleasing transformation that we have seen in the last 7 years. I think Prime Minister launched Startup India in January of 2016. And you see the transformation in India. People will tell you statistics about how many unicorns there are, how many funding there is, how many number of startups. But you know, people forget that it has brought about a fundamental change in people's outlook towards innovation and change. Just give you an example. My sister, 72 years, 73-year-old, she uses the apps to make her doctor's appointment, to order food, and to book tickets and stuff like that. And so the mindset that has become much more accepting of fundamental innovation. And if you look at the history of the world, it's the most innovative companies that become prosperous. The only exception has been those petro economies, but that's a very, very small aberration. Otherwise, history of the world is that the countries that are most innovative become the most prosperous. So Industrial Revolution brought prosperity to Western Europe. And USSC has been, because it has been one of the most innovative countries, for the last 100, 150 years, it's one of the most prosperous countries. Japan became prosperous, riding on the back of innovations like Sony ka kya tha? That thing that we used to use, camcorder. No, camcorder wo tha. No, those thing 2-in-1 that we used to carry. Sony rode on that. Korea, all the innovation that they brought. China, all this innovation that they have brought. So it's the innovation is really the bedrock of prosperity. And India's attitude towards innovation was not very accepting before that. So the profound change in the mindset you see in bureaucracy, in politicians, in common population is brought about by the conveniences and the changes in people's lives by the innovations that brought up by startups. And that's the fundamental thing. And these things have a momentum of its own. Yeah, there are a lot of things that still need to be changed. But once they acquire momentum in a democracy, things keep moving, unrelentingly forward. And that's what is going to happen. I think this has been the most pleasing part of it. It's pleasing to me because I was involved with this. When Prime Minister came here in 2015, we had a long discussion on this startup thing, and he put Amitabh Kant to work with us. And 4 months later, he launched Startup India, and I was invited to be part of that thing. So it's very, very pleasing and satisfying that India has become, one of the biggest centers for startup innovation. And if the policies were to become more favorable, India would be after US, India would be the place where the innovation for the rest of the world will come from. And there's a lot of things to be improved.
Can you give us a few things where India needs to improve, both in the policy front and otherwise as well?
So I'll tell you, there are a lot of things, compliance ka burden, but the fundamental thing is there's a political will to make things easier for the startups. But it doesn't happen. The reason it does not happen is that each agency, each department, they don't have all the different agencies and departments and this thing. They don't have a shared collective understanding of what the desirable outcome is. And if you don't have that, then each one optimizes what they think is best for it. So income tax department will say, no, we'll angel tax ka jo hai, we will not let it go. RBI says that every time you see, even if you use the credit card, outside, you need to report, something like that. So if you are a multinational company based in India, small startup,
Right.
which has branches all over India, the reporting requirement to RBI and permission requirement even for small transaction is so high that people decide that let's just set it up in Dubai, let's just set it up in Singapore.
So where do you see India 10 years from now in terms of economy and IT?
I think India is entering the golden phase of its economic development, especially when it comes to technology. I mean, if you look at if what has happened is that regardless of which industry you are in, even in oil, even in traditional industries like shipping, and textile, oil and gas, manufacturing, even in those traditional industries, technology is going to play a bigger and bigger role. And technology means software, it means handling data, and it means artificial intelligence. Nowhere else in the world you have as much of a qualified manpower that exists to address the needs of the world. US doesn't have, UK does not have, Germany does not have. So that's so this is the golden age for Indian brain power. As technology seeps more and more into traditional industries, everyone would need what, in the first phase, all the banks and insurance companies here and the media companies, they relied on India. Now, every company, whether you are in manufacturing, whether you are in energy, whether you are in service, whether you are in, regardless of industry you are in, you have to be in India, because you cannot get access to brain power at scale anywhere else.
Prime Minister is coming here next month, a few weeks from now. It's a state visit. He had come early in 2015 to Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley and Indian Americans here have played a good role in where India is right now. And people-to-people relationship play an important role in building and strengthening this relationship. You have been actively involved in this as well. What role can you say in the next few years Indian Americans can play in further building up the Indian economy and in India's development?
One area that is huge here is completely untapped by India. And that area is it's software for Department of Defense and all the critical infrastructure. So there was a moment called Y2K where Indian expertise, pretty much saved this, was supposed to be an apocalypse here. Now the situation is that the critical infrastructure in this country, is all vulnerable to cyber attacks. And those vulnerabilities are extremely well understood because they're running on COBOL, running on 30-year-old Linux systems. They're running on operating systems that have, that are known problems. US just does not have enough manpower.
The money also.
Well, money come if you have to pay some for everyone. You say 200,000, 300,000, then you don't have the money.
Right.
But if an Indian sitting in India could work on that project, so instead of spending 200,000, now you spend 30, 40,000. Now you have 5 times the capacity. But Indians are not allowed to work on defense projects. Ability of Indians to work on defense projects, ability of India to work on critical infrastructure projects in US. It's a massive opportunity. Massive opportunity. And if I were to give one advice to Modi, it is that Indian citizens should be allowed to work on your defense software projects.
Okay.
In return, तुमको जो करना कर लो. Right now, US is trying to sell India the armament. Instead of selling the armament, you say, we'll give you business. Now India has money to buy whatever you're selling.
Right.
So US doesn't know what to offer India. India does not know what to ask for. I'm telling you. At the highest level, it's a complete win-win relationship. No one has exploded.
And this will further strengthen people to people. Amazingly.
There will be total codependence. Imagine if somebody is working on your F-35. If somebody sitting in India is making your aircraft carrier is attack proof, making the power plants here cyber attack proof, making the airport this thing attack proof, the codependence. And if you understand this thing here, you would buy more and more of the armament from US because of the codependence, because of the relationship of trust that it generates. I mean, the reason that all these companies are setting up shops in India is because they have been using those guys for last 10 years. Last 15, 20 years, this thing is working very well.
So they might, the concerns that the US might have, that there might be some leaks, theft of their intellectual property or something related to the defense sector, which might hamper the national security, right?
You safeguard that even among your own citizens. You do all these background checks.
Right. Even every American citizen cannot work in Pentagon.
No. They have to go through background checks. Set up some system, just as FDA.
True. US has the largest number of FDA facilities in India.
Yes. US has figured out how to monitor drug this thing in India, and Indians have adapted very well to that system. So why can't you do that for defense? Similar thing, maybe set up a dedicated parks, maybe have some qualifying. This is a solvable problem. The higher level, strategic level, if there is alignment, these are solvable problems.
Yeah, background check, FBI and CBI can have a collaborative effort. They can do the background check.
Yeah.
Common parameters they can check.
3 जनरेशन का बैकग्राउंड चेक हो जाएगा वहां तो बैठे बैठे खट से. वहां तो इंडिया में तो सब जनरेशंस का बैकग्राउंड चेक एक मीटिंग में पता चल जाता है. बहुत अच्छे घर का है. इनके दादाजी जो हैं वो हमारे Yeah, no, I think it's a solvable problem. The problem is, I'm telling you this, it's a lack of imagination on both sides.